Everybody, whether they are successful or not, has an inner critic in their heads that judges them, doubts them, belittles them, and that is always telling them that they are not good enough. Everybody, whether they are successful or not, has an inner critic in their heads that judges them, doubts them, belittles them, and that is always telling them that they are not good enough. The difference between successful people and everyone else is they've learned to ignore this inner critic and eliminate negative self-talk. They understand that everything that they say to themselves matters. Unfortunately, your inner critic stops you from pursuing the life you truly want to live. Here are some of the top ways to stop the negative self-talk in its tracks. Recognize the critic. You have to become aware of your inner critic if you want to be able to gain control over it. Much of our thinking happens automatically and so quickly that we barely notice it. This means that you will have to make the conscious effort to slow down and pay attention to what you're thinking. This will help you notice when the critic is present. Separate yourself from the critic. Your inner critic thrives best when you mistake it for being part of your authentic self. To separate yourself from this critic, you need to give it a name. You can give it any name you want, like the nag. The important thing is that by separating it from your own identity, you are essentially freeing yourself from its influence. Talk back to it. The only way to take away your inner critic's power is by talking back to it. You merely have to tell it that you don't want to hear what it is saying. Speaking back to it begins to give you the sense that you have a choice in the matter. When the critic starts to talk, just tell it to go away and that you refuse to listen. Replace the critic. Replace the critic. The best way to defeat the critic once and for all is to have an even stronger ally on your side. You need to work on growing an inner voice that acts like your best friend rather than your enemy. To do this, you need to begin seeing all the good things about yourself. You have to acknowledge that you do have positive traits and that you can accomplish anything. To break the cycle of negative self-talk, you have to make a conscious effort to recognize your inner critic and change the way you interact with it. By eliminating negative self-talk from your life, you will start to see a dramatic shift in your mindset and be able to find success in everything that you do. Ways to say no to negativity. When time is viewed as a non-renewable resource, it often becomes easier to understand the importance of managing it wisely. As with any resource, there is a direct relationship between the supply of and the demand for that resource. When there is an overabundance of time, it is more easily wasted. Likewise, when there is a shortage of the resource, in this case of time, it becomes necessary to more effectively manage even the smallest amount of it. Beginning to effectively manage time often begins with a change in perspective regarding time. Each day provides only a specific number of hours, minutes, and seconds in which to accomplish goals and complete tasks. When working under a deadline, then, every minute or hour is considered a resource which one could feasibly use to the full extent in order to meet a specific goal. The resource is non-renewable. Each moment or hour that is used up is a percentage of a resource which will not be replenished. When there is a shortage of any resource, it becomes important to closely monitor its uses. Consider the response to a shortage of water. Certain activities are eliminated from use, such as watering plants, whenever there is a state of drought. Limited activities make the most use of the resources available. The individual undertaking a time management program, then, will need to learn to identify the ways in which even the smallest amount of time is wasted, as well as to carefully oversee their own limited supply of this valuable resource.